flush out what their fears and concerns are and really go deep into these numbers and the data, the historic information about where rates have been and where they're going, and all of that is really important, because you can, for someone who does need it, right, you can sort of shuffle around these concerns and address them in the offer process. Transactions are hard to come by, right? So you have an interested buyer. I find that sellers are more willing to listen and negotiate, obviously, right now. So that sort of deep partnership with someone who's highly intelligent and experienced and can really go there with buyers and give you that feedback on the back end, super important.
So a quick one more question. Chase is affiliated with a particular builder. Do you have a different set of program with the builder, or is it standard what Chase is giving outside?
We don't discount rates to builders.
Yeah,
I mean, usually I've seen that it's higher. The builder, whoever is affiliated with the builder, when my clients shop around outside, they get a better rate than the builder, lender.
So that depends on who you're talking about, right? So there are builders like Lennar or KB Homes, right, or Toll Brothers. They have affiliated lenders, right? They own their lender. They sometimes own the title company. Right. There's all of this affiliated business. And they will incentivize buyers to work with their affiliated companies. But yeah, you're right. They're usually compensating for the cash incentive with higher rate. I think it is important to shop. I think it's worth noting too, if you're working with, I use Lennar and Toll Brothers because they have big projects selling here in Fremont now, but buyers have the right to choose whoever they want to work with. This may be a sore subject for you right now, but buyers have that right, and these developers, those specific types of developers, usually have a very structured protocol on what a buyer needs to do to declare working with their outside lender, so just pay attention to that. All that stuff is written right into the contract, but the timelines associated with shopping and identifying an outside lender usually are very quick, right? They're usually due right around the time the EMD is due, so it goes really fast.
My thing would have been that they would give a better, they should be giving better rates because it's all in-house and it's, it's better for them.
They don't have to give better rates because, the builders really push. My best friend is a new sales agent. He won #1 in the country, so they are trained to heavily steer, let's not say steer, that's a bad word, heavily influence their clients into using these affiliated arrangements that they're getting kickbacks on the end because they own the business. So, that's where having a realtor partner, because sometimes it's just me against the sales agent, and I'm on the phone like, you can't be saying these things, but what are you going to do? And like Jason alluded to, the sore subject is that 3 times since December, the buyers just wilted to the pressure and just said, it was just too much, they were making it so hard, you were giving the better rate, and I took the worst deal just because I felt like they weren't going to stop. So having another partner there, like a realtor, I would have. But do most buyers have a realtor on their new construction? The answer is no. I don't say, maybe 10% of my buyers ever show up with a realtor attached to the deal. So that's the problem. Buyers have a perception, and this is not a personal opinion, this is a vocalized perception that they've shared with me many times over, is why do I need a realtor? I already have a realtor. They think that person is working for them, and new construction and sales agents 100% are only protecting the interests of the builder.
And I will say too, not all situations are like that, right? So most of the big nationwide publicly traded builders do own a lender as well, but not everyone. A lot of times in our more urban environments, like you are here, you have local developers who don't have that infrastructure, right? And so they'll outsource sometimes sales, usually sales, and then they usually have a list of, we don't really like the word preferred lender, that's sort of going away, but they'll have their list of lenders of choice, right, who might include Chase or B of A or Wells or what have you. In that case, it's really about partnership, right, and pipeline management. If you've got 250 condo units, you would really rather have as many of those people working with the same group of lenders as possible, just to manage it without a huge headache. And then there's, especially with condo stuff, right, you have project approval, which is always tricky. Every lender has a different set of rules regarding pre-sale and all that stuff. So it just behooves the developer to work with lenders who they know and trust and who know that condo piece of it.
And I think the thing to know too is that it's, you would assume that every bank has a suite of products to serve every market. That's a lot of times not true. So a lot of smaller banks or even brokers are struggling now in the jumbo space because they have the Chases and the Wells Fargo and us. Wells Fargo's pulled out of their correspondent lending, meaning that a broker can't shop their loan to Wells Fargo. You know, there's some jumbo investors, but they're really restricting their lending right now. So that is another challenge that the builder's lender, and why they may have been higher, is because when those jumbo investors don't want to do lending in a certain space, they don't pull the product, they just raise the rate 1% so that assumably buyers won't take it. And then they figure, well, if they're going to take it with 1%, we've got so much risk covered with this extra interest, we'll take the deal.
I have a question. Are you seeing any new construction starts right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's slower right now. A lot of, especially the bigger corporate developers who have land and have projects entitled.
When they're out here, they've got a whole bunch of land, get ready to build on.
Ready to
They
build.
haven't started.
Yeah. Yeah, I think developers are going to pull back a little
How's
bit
their
more so.
inventory right now? New construction, new development, how's their inventory?
Well, it depends. I mean, in the environment of, let's say, a condo building, especially if it's a high-rise like we have in, you know, Oakland, parts of San Jose, San Francisco, that inventory is built, it's there, right? So volume is,
They've got a lot of it.
yeah, there's a lot of
And
it.
they're not selling it,
The
right?
single-family home builders don't really operate like that. They'll usually build out ahead, you know, 10,
Right.
15 units. And so they've really slowed down to sort of adjust. Some of them do have some inventory. It varies by region and by project and, you know, what the obstacles are or were. But here right in Fremont, you've got Lennar down at Innovation. There's quite a bit of inventory there. I don't know if they're co-oping yet. When I last checked in with that sales manager, they still weren't, which shocks me, but there's a pretty good standing inventory there. I know they're reducing price to try to sort of catch up.
Well, I mean, and you know, you can always look to the surroundings. The Somi's right in Hayward. So, you know, my office is in Union City. Somi's 8 minutes from me. It's very central to transportation. And they should have models open end of February, and they'll be around the 850, somewhere in there.
Yeah, we'll be working together with the Homes Built for America in Hayward, the SOMI project. There's some townhomes, some condos actively building now. They're getting their sales gallery ready. So that, I guess technically they've sort of done a soft launch, but I think pricing will be good there. I know the sizes are really attractive there. But that's a situation where none of the lenders are owned in-house, right? They're all just new construction specialists. The sales team is not owned in-house, that's all outsourced too. So I think you'll have an interesting situation there where they're still trying to get pricing right, but I think it'll be attractive pricing, and we look forward to having everyone in there as soon as they've got something to show.
And on our new construction, while we don't provide for referential pricing, we do have a division that just focuses on those loans because it is more complicated, so they do go through a different process on the back end of that piece.
And I think you had asked too if there's special programming or pricing among lenders for new construction. There shouldn't be. That's a real respite issue, right? For a lender like Chase to do something for a developer at a specific project that we don't do everywhere. So you won't really run into that. But we do have new construction specific programming and product like, you know, extended rate locks, that kind of thing. But anyone can take advantage of that anywhere there's new construction. Are we on to this?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
I want to turn some
Wow.
extras to your
Good
slides.
timing. Okay. Well, we've sort of touched on some of this stuff, but one thing I wanted to mention is that, and you may have noticed this too, it seems like the volume of new construction transactions increased through last year. I think with rates up and prices maybe coming down, a lot of would-be sellers are sort of holding on, right? So maybe that's part of it, an inventory issue in resale and in new construction. So we're seeing a lot more of that, and so Susan has had me out a couple of times already this year and just talking about this environment, and so we wanted to just touch on some things regarding new construction that are a little different. She mentioned earlier that not all new construction developers offer a broker co-op, so I think it's really important to be mindful of what's available, obviously, in the community. I know Sherry and Sani, who's the sales manager down at Innovation. The last time I checked in with her, they weren't doing it, but I know Lennar has started to do that in some of their communities, so that may come. Just stay on top of that. If you've worked with buyers of new construction, more often than not, those new construction sales contracts have a provision that asks the buyer to pay for transfer tax. That's also sort of the custom for us here in the Bay Area. You can negotiate around that, and like I said, the builders are a lot more flexible with seller concessions, so you can sort of have the builder turn around
The whole
and pay that.
transfer tax,
All of it.
You can negotiate.
and not split it.
No, not usually in new construction. That's the custom, but that's, you know, you can negotiate around that up front. I think it's worth mentioning too, a lot of times buyers are, as you know, very savvy, and it's not unusual for a buyer who's working with an agent to walk into a new construction sales office and ask them if they buy unrepresented, if it entitles them to 2.5%. And a lot of developers are, they're gonna look at that, right? That might open an opportunity, but a lot of developers will prefer buyers to work with their own agents, and so just be mindful of that, right? I think if you have buyers who are interested in new construction, you wanna make sure you are registering those buyers. I recommend just calling that sales team, developing a little bit of a relationship with that sales team, let them know who your buyer is. Usually they're pretty flexible. Developers, they're hurting for deals like everybody else, and so I think you'll find if you just contact those folks and have conversations with them, but just be aware that you don't necessarily have to be with the buyer, right? You just have to be a part of their registration process, however that's gonna work.
But the age-old story is that you've been working with a buyer for, 3, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. That buyer decides they're driving around, they go into new construction. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gonna put an offer on this.
Mhm.
And then you're out in the cold as the agent because the builder is not gonna honor the fact that you were working with this agent forever and ever and gets nothing. So has the mindset of the builder changed on that?
Well, I think it depends. It depends on the builder and the sales team. What you'll find, we just spent some time yesterday with a sales team of Polaris Pacific, who represents a lot of sort of one-off condo developers, and those sales teams are the outsourced type of sales teams are keenly aware that the resale agents in their local markets are strong partners, and so I think you'll find a lot of flexibility and support in situations like that. But in a case of, let's say, like a Lennar or a KB Homes, more often no. I mean, they'd sort of rather, and they're quite coached, right, to have more of a structured, rigid rule around representation and registration and that kind of thing. But I think it very much helps, right? As soon as you're aware that a buyer is interested in new construction, just to take the lead on it, contact those sales teams right away, get to know what their inventory is, try to make a buddy, right? Make a friend, because that always helps. It's hard to say no to someone who you've developed a personal kind of relationship with.
And I can share that, I mentioned my friend, he sells out of Tri-Point and stuff, so they will in some cases come back and renegotiate the realtor back in. He's definitely one that is like, if you come at me with your aggressive attitude and demands, you're never gonna get anything from me. But if a realtor comes to me and is reasonable and, you know, kind of shows a little like, hey, look, this is communication going back to my client, then he'll fight for you. So, but a lot of times what he's getting is they're coming in with a club, you know, and demanding their commission. So, you know, this is a relationship business, as Jason kind of alluded to. So just treat your sales agents well and they'll take better care of you.
Yeah. I would say too, I mean, I've seen this before lots of times, and I think the sales teams don't really like to get in the middle of it, you know, if a buyer comes in. And I will say too, most developers see the selling agent's co-op is something that's very different from the concession that they're willing to negotiate, right? So they see that sort of as a direct cost of sales almost, right, with resale agents. And so it's a little bit of a misnomer if buyers think they can walk in and ask for 2.5% for that reason. I don't think most sales teams and developers see that in the way that buyers think they do.
Do the seller's agent or the person who's sitting in the office there get a different commission if the buyers come in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No.
You know, one unfortunate thing that it happened to me a couple of times, more than a couple of times. And my client walked in a new home, but I have been showing them a lot of houses in the past. And I called the new builder. They don't want to cooperate with me because they said that you have to be the first time they walk into their builder's project to register them. Otherwise, you won't get a commission. It happened to me more than 3 times.
Yeah, I know it can happen, and it can be obviously heartbreaking and frustrating, and I just think that if you can coach the buyers a little bit, right, and maybe send them out with your cards so they can hand that over. Most sales teams will take that as a buyer expressing, working with you already, right? They'll accept that as registration. And I think it's really important to express to your clients too that the sales teams on site do represent the seller. I mean, they're usually very kind, they're very welcoming, they're really gracious, they can feel like,
Partners.
like they're working with you, but they represent the seller.
They're not on the buyer's side.
No.
They're not on the buyer's side,
No, they're
absolutely
on
not.
the seller's side 100%.
And there's a limit to how much the builder is willing to, negotiate. They have kind of a net price per unit that they already know. And so that isn't going to change whether or not they're working with you. So I think that it makes sense, right, to advise your buyers of that so that they know that they've got someone on their side. I mean, it's a little different working with a builder than with a reseller, obviously, but they're not really in much of a situation to gain anything by not working with you.
I think the other thing too is that I've seen frequently is that your buyer has been, sending you the listings you like. They're super focused on the resale, and so a lot of times when I'm calling the realtor saying, by the way, your buyer just called me. They were out in Mountain House this weekend. They're looking at new construction. The realtor didn't even know. They had not even had that conversation to say, have you considered this? And that's why it's important to know your market, and I totally understand the frustration because the new construction offices obviously pushed you guys out very handedly and made it very clear that they didn't want or need you the past 2 years. That is not their sentiment now. When we're talking about, hey, we've got agents that might want to come in, can we do like a Realty Experts, open house at your project, they're like, yes, please bring them in. Like, they want you back. But just make sure you're fleshing out all the options because I am surprised how many times the realtor does not know that their client's even looking at new construction.
I'm not. They just go do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think arming them with some business cards and just kind of letting them know the sort of backstory of where your value is and why it's important to retain you in representation through the process. I think that's maybe the best you can do, right? And once you learn that they have seen, you know, or that they're interested in a project, if they've seen it, just reach out to those sales teams right away. Yeah. I kind of wanted to express too, in my role, of course, I do have a focus on new construction, spend a lot of time in that, but I do support our sales team throughout Northern California in condo resale too. Condo financing is trickier than single family home financing, right? And so I just always urge to our partners, if you have listings coming up, if you're talking to sellers who are bringing condo to market, please feel free to reach out to Susan. I left my cards there too, you can reach out to me, but we keep a database whenever we close a transaction in a condo project, and so if you've got something of 25, 30, 35 units, chances are we've done a deal there in the not too distant past. So we can dig into that and kind of pre-vet any potential issues for you, or kind of give you some guidance on what a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac transaction might look like there, so you can, you know, have more intelligent conversations with your buyer's agents who come through. So we're definitely happy to do that, to consult with you on those listings.
We can also pre-vet litigation. So if you've got either on either side representing the seller or representing the buyer, if you just want a lender to say, will you accept this, then you just have to send us the litigation documents. We can send it to our condo team, and they usually respond with us, I don't know, a day.
Yeah.
They'll tell us right away, like, this is gonna work or this won't work, so.
And she pointed out earlier, we do have a lot of regions in the Bay Area that are eligible for our census tract grant, and so it's good to know about that, right? Because we could put together a little piece of information that you can put in the hands of buyers when they come through. In this particular area, most of the census tract grants are worth $2,500. It's not a ton of money, but it's a little bit. She mentioned, but further up in Oakland, we have some $5,000 grant tracks, so we can look at that.
Yeah, we have sign writers, other stuff. We have verbiage you can put on your MLS. There's grant eligible. So just like they're doing the rate buy down, if you want to, you know, get some more into your property, we have that. I have one example over here. We do have some farming stuff. So if anyone's looking at farming, we have co-branded stuff. There's no cost to you for design or printing or anything. So, and they're all professionally done. So there's some really nice like rent versus buy material.
Yeah, before you cut off here, I had a question for you. Are you all worked up about the May 10th CPI announcement like all the other lenders are, where the inflation rate's going to come out? They think that, or do you think it's going to be built in prior?
That's the thing, is that people always assume like when the feds are raising rates, let's say on December 15th, that rates are raising on December 15th. No, rates raised on September 15th. Like the market's already baked out. There's multiple indexes for inflation, and they come out like every 2 weeks or so. So I don't typically, at this point, I've been riding this wave for 20 years, and this last one, you know, it's been a little rockier, but I don't typically get too up in arms over a specific one, because in 2 weeks, we saw that in last quarter.
Yeah.
We saw one inflation report said good, one said bad, and then just all even out, rates started dropping.
Well, I always watch the 10-year bond. That's
Yeah.
what I watch. Also, do you do commercial loans?
I do not, but Chase does. So we have teams that are attached to our branch that we can refer you to.
Okay, I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah.
And one other thing, Chuck mentioned that everybody knows you at Tri-City Marketing, but for those who don't know Susan, everybody knows her at every marketing group throughout Maine. So, very well respected, very knowledgeable.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you're not coming to Tri-Cities Marketing, you should. Your bosses are there, so.
Yeah.
They don't have bosses.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
guys so
thank you
much.
guys.
This was a fun, really fun trip. Yeah.
He does have some notebooks here.
Okay, don't leave, we're not done yet. Anyhow, thank you, Chase, it was an excellent presentation, and thank you again for the breakfast.
Yeah.
And as Susan said, we do need more agents at the Tri-City Marketing Meeting because, you know, it's our business. And we need to get back on tours again. We need to go out there and take a look what the inventory is like, get to know what's happening in our community, and get to know each other again, which we're not doing too long. What else was there? With Tri-City Marketing, you are starting the program back again, right?
The Super Tour?
Super Tour.
Yeah.
Super Tour is coming back on again. So we're encouraging you guys to please show up. It's well worth it. Okay, now the other housekeeping thing I'd like to do is Saba wasn't here last time we had our meeting, but Saba, that top sales agent for the year 2021, the gold medal award. That's the third highest production in the company.
Oh my gosh, can I borrow
Anybody want to take a picture of us? I think you got a camera?
Saba, can I borrow some money?
Can you take a picture of Saba and I?
James, can you take that picture?
Do I have the permission?
Yes, you got permission, 100%.
Who's sued?
Saba,
Beautiful patch.
Very nice. One more.
okay.
Right on.
All right, and I want to thank you guys for being here. You know, this is the second meeting we've had live. Do you like this? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Is it better than having Zoom?
Zoom sucks.
Thank you. It does. So we're going to do this every other week live, and then in between we're going to try to do educational classes in between. As I just told you, those who came in late, we're going to have Engage coming here next week. That's an educational class, but that will be at noon, free lunch. I need to know how many people are going to come. It's about a 45-minute presentation. It's a workshop, and I'll have a sign-up sheet down there today. But if you want to leave the staff know downstairs that you're coming, she'll mark it down. But we do need to know how many by Friday. Okay? Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody that showed up today, and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Yeah.